greater scheme and the big picture. Nothing really matters.
Wesley, Wyndam-Pryce.
Favor. I'm better than anyone.
There's a lot worse things out there than
This
such.
doesn't work in spite of evil. Nothing we do matters.
Works with us.
Why is it that I'm not on the floor this time?
Take on what matters is what we do.
Since this episode picks right up from Thunder Beneath the Angel sheets, let's talk about the cliffhanger from Reprise that I glossed over in the last video. One of the episode's obvious namesakes that I forgot about is, of course, the Buffy episode Surprise, in which Angel and Buffy have sex, and after some post-coital bliss, Thunder wakes Angel up and he stumbles out into a storm and loses his soul. In the video for Surprise, I went on a rant about how poorly thought out the curse is, just generally from the perspective of the cursor. You can watch that in the top right. But I think it's also safe to say that at this point, it's well established that the curse is not specifically related to sexual intercourse. Angel didn't turn during sex, but an undetermined amount of time later in a state of peaceful bliss with Buffy, his true love. In Eternity, Wesley emphasized the extreme rarity of what Angel found that night with Buffy.
Angel's moment of true happiness occurred because he was with Buffy. You realize how rare that is? True happiness?
And in that episode, Angel experienced a drug-induced euphoric state that temporarily brought on the transformation, emphasizing again that the transformation has nothing specifically to do with sex. Clearly, Angel comes to Darla's room in a state of despair. Clearly, they are not in love with each other and she is not a source of happiness for him, so barring any newly introduced rules to the lore of the Big Dumb Curse, we, the audience, knew this was never going to be a moment where he magically lost his soul. Were the Distant Thunder a light symbolic representation of that moment from Surprise, a nod to his hitting bottom as a part of this arc, and the camera had just faded to black and Reprise had ended, completely fine. Instead, we get this unexplained gaspy-raspy moment of stupid in which Angel does this crawl of shame out to the balcony. Again, the only reason this would work as a cliffhanger or contain any actual suspense is if the scene is introducing something previously unknown about the curse lore, or sex was the actual trigger for the soul losing, which in my mind would be a trite interpretation of the words perfect happiness.
You realize how rare that is?
And neither of those is what is happening. It's as though the show forgets its own past here for a moment simply for the sake of some cheap suspense. As if all of the drama and stakes created to this point weren't captivating enough. And then it turns out to be nothing? Absolutely nothing? Then what the hell happened? Why was Angel in so much thunder-adjacent physical pain? Was he just being a drama queen? Was he gassy? Did he accidentally eat a deep-fried flounder chimichanga before making his way back to the hotel? Loud thunder scaring a painful and noxious stank from him as he crawled out to the porch in shame? Not that that's ever happened to... Look, the point is, it makes no sense. It's a cheat. A cliffhanger for the sake of a cliffhanger, and worse, distracts from the implications of an otherwise wonderfully built-up moment of hitting bottom for Angel. Definitely the only aspect of this wonderful two-parter that I can't stand. Anywho, Gassy Angel gets the evil out, Darla thinks he's losing his soul, he explains to her exactly what actually happened.
It was perfect despair.
Angel tells Darla to get out of town, then goes, busts in on, and saves an unconscious Kate. Darla fans the flames of an already jealous Lindsay. He finds his cowboy boots, which means things are about to get real serious. Angel goes and sees an absolutely adorable in that robe Lorne and asks him what the hell he's supposed to do next. Lorne reveals to him that Team Investigations is in trouble tonight. Cordy has a vision of herself being attacked in the house she's currently standing in. Helpful powers. Helpful.
That was helpful!
It's the demons that did the eye thing to the little girl in the previous episode. They infect Cordy with one here and go after Wesley. In the scene where Wesley goes for his shotgun, a crew member makes an appearance, another oopsie from Angel's first two seasons being shot in 16:9 but only protected for 4:3. Angel shows up to help and oh my god does it feel good to have the band starting to get back together. They pick up Gunn and head to save Cordy. Country Wesley takes his jealousy out on Angel by hitting him with a car and then sledgehammering him in the face, then the ribs and spine and back. Angel leaps to his feet.
How?
Breaks Lindsay's hand and steals his car, somehow leaving me feeling bad for Lindsay instead of Angel. Angel saves the day with the country Lindsay mobile, but doesn't get the warm welcome he was expecting.
It really hurt my feelings.
Angel and Kate have one of the most important conversations in the Buffyverse, and the episode ends with Angel throwing himself at the mercy of team investigations, and the team maybe kinda sorta realizing that they need him too.
Why is it that I'm not on the floor this time?
On the evening of February 27th, 2001, the WB aired what you might call, pretty good night of television between Buffy's The Body and Angel's Epiphany, if for incredibly different reasons. But even on that first viewing of Angel, I would say I really didn't get Epiphany. The first time I watched, all of the Sturm and Drang leading up to and including Reprise made the humor in this one feel a little baffling. To go from Angel throwing Darla through a plate glass door to...
Not only have I been around for 400 years, but I used to do this professionally, and that was perfect.
didn't feel like the payoff the show was setting up. As usual with the season, though, that's part of the point. And I think it would be fair to say that my first time through Angel, I didn't get it. I was doing the hot swappy run-through, going from Buffy Season 5 to Angel Season 2, watching them in the order they originally aired. Boom, 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 boom. If you've ever struggled to get into Buffy's spin-off the way I did, I definitely wouldn't recommend that approach. There is such a dissonant flavor between the two shows. Buffy Season 5 is bright and sugary saturated. Angel Season 2 is chilly and dark. Buffy Season 5 spends a lot of time on drama of the mundane, but then somehow regularly hits me square in the feels. Angel Season 2 is high, engrossing drama that at times leaves me feeling a little cold. The first time I really got into Angel was the first time I watched it on its own, every episode in order. The courtyard scene was always wonderful, but I've really come around on this episode the more I've watched the season. This Season 2 run may have been messy at times, but it is super ambitious, and because of that, I personally tend to overlook whatever missteps there may have been, given that the good was great. And Angel's Season 2 arc, abandoning his redemptive journey, has been spectacular. And the return to the smaller episode feel in this one not only works thematically, but is a welcome change of pace from the,
Someone has to fight the war.
war that Angel has been fighting since Lindsay had Drew turn Darla. Everyone being mean to Angel is nicely cathartic. I love Angel's earnestness and his eventual way of showing contrition to the team. Unlike Buffy, Angel's show tends to work in split season arcs. The first major arc completes somewhere between episodes 16 and 19, followed by a second arc to the season finale. And while there are some consistent themes throughout, Epiphany wraps up the major Angel Season 2 arc and nicely ties off most of its primary threads, with a very minor handful feeling not as satisfying. After all of the fascinating theme work in Reprise, with payoffs set up since the beginning of the season, Epiphany returns to a small, almost case of the week type of feel, symbolic of Angel's change in focus that we'll talk about in a minute. Lindsay finally getting sick of playing a part in someone else's Machiavellian schemes and going country on Angel's face is a delight. Christian Kane has one more credit this season, but his country Lindsay was intended to be something of a send-off. And according to Christian, who once drove to LA from Oklahoma in a beaten-up pickup truck, the only part of the ensemble that wasn't his was the flannel shirt. I also love the nod in the scene that Angel gives to their brief collaboration in Blind Date, and one of the frustrations with Angel I brought up from that episode.
I'm sorry I didn't try harder to help you when you came to me.
Christian has one more episode, but this one was the last for Elizabeth Rome, just as her character was becoming interesting for the first time since The Prodigal. Rome was leaving to join the cast of Law & Order, probably for the best. If there is a defining characteristic to Angel the series, I think it would be experimentation. And Kate's character, one of the many symbolic reminders for Angel of the girl he left in Sunnydale, was a better fit for the episodic Case of the Week experiment that ended midway through the first season. This episode closes the Darla Buffy parallel seduction arc from this season in such a wonderful way, where postcoital bliss with Buffy produced such a moment of true happiness that Angel's curse releases his soul and drives him to darkness. Darla and Angel's grumpy despair sex is the necessary bottom for Angel's moment of clarity that allows him to start finding his way back to the light. I love it. This beat also has a nice reflection of the moment where Darla asks him to do the same favor she once did him in some back alley.
You think you did me a favor? You damned me.
What is it?
You saved me.
Buffy unknowingly reacted to Angel turning evil with...
Was I not good?
Darla reacts to Angel not turning evil with...
Was it not good?
Also, I think the orgasmic quality of the sex they describe...
Then I...
3 times.
puts an emphatic period on any debate over whether the curse is tied to sex, paradoxically indicting Reprise's dumb cliffhanger again. Angel gives Darla a get-out-of-jail-free card for being the bottom that helped him get sober, which, seriously, what's with our superheroes just letting dangerous serial killer vampires leave town this season because their love lives are in the tank?
So lost. Even I can't help you now.
Buffy. Shouldn't you? Never mind. While it's one of the few picks I have to nit about any of this, running them down quickly and in no particular order, happily Angel's role in the wine cellar deaths of Willard and the lawyers is acknowledged here, but in an episode with one of the more beautiful philosophical sequences in all of the Buffyverse, any ethical considerations of Angel's actions are quickly dismissed in the least convincing way possible.
But you didn't kill those lawyers, Angel. That was slated to happen with or without you. Well, the powers were just trying to work it so it'd be without you, that's all.
What a strange and unsatisfying answer to the trolley problem. Technically, everyone's death is slated to happen, with or without assistance. If you shoot someone who is going to be hit by a bus the next day, have you not still committed murder? Aided and abetted? Whatever you want to equivocate down to what happened? The point was that the assistance with the door... You know what? Never mind. We'll just move on to how have Angel's bones not been replaced with paste after getting hit by a truck multiple times before getting hit in the face, the ribs, and the spine with a sledgehammer? Bethany jacked Angel with a single piece of rebar and he made more of a fuss.
Okay. Maybe she can hurt me a little.
The Skelosh Demon's baby head implant thing means that this is 2 seasons and 2 magical pregnancies for Cordy so far. And last but not least, driving the Country Time Lindsay mobile through the wall made for a great spectacle, but seems a little risky. I mean, the blinds were closed, and Wesley the Wheeled One might not be clearing the window right now if they weren't. Just saying. But enough of that. Let's talk about Angel's epiphany and one of my favorite scenes in all the Buffyverse. In the previous video, I talked about the show's use of repetition, and this particular leg of Angel's journey has beats first heard back in Buffy Season 3 in the Absurdist Trilogy, The Wish, Gingerbread, and Angel the Series Episode 0, Amends. I'm not going to cover everything I did in those videos. There are links in the description and in the top right, if you want a refresher. But in short, the trilogy works as an allegory of French philosopher Albert Camus' 3 responses to the disconnect between our human desire for meaning and the fact that the universe is chaotic and indifferent to us, a relationship he called the absurd. Camus' first response was the leap of faith, a rational or theological rejection of the idea that the universe is intrinsically meaningless, as with Giles's reasons for destroying the Wishverse.
How do you know the other world is any better than this?
Because it has to be.
The second was suicide, the consideration of which Camus argued was a logical consequence from recognizing life's lack of inherent meaning, as with Angel's attempt to kill himself in Amends.
Am I a thing worth saving, huh? Am I a righteous man?
And finally, embracing the absurdity of existence and creating meaning through the choice to live with passion and purpose, something Camus believed was an act of rebellion against an indifferent universe. For both Buffy and Angel, that passionate choice to live is expressed as the fight.
Strong is fighting.
And in Gingerbread, Buffy's will to continue fighting was challenged by Joyce's contention that she could never win that fight because, you know, Sunnydale was always gonna Sunnydale.
But is Sunnydale getting any better? Are they running out of vampires?
I wonder if anyone would ever ask a doctor if the world was running out of viruses. Later in the episode, Angel doesn't tell Buffy that Joyce is wrong, but rather that her statement is missing the point.
But we never
win.
Not completely.
Never will. That's not why we fight. We do it because there's things worth fighting for.
I love that idea. Fighting because there are things worth fighting for. A large portion of the structure from that trilogy appears again here in Angel Season 2. Angel's existential crisis in Amends was triggered primarily by 2 forces: his isolation from losing Buffy in Lover's Walk, and the first's attempts to seduce him into giving into his guilt and urges. This season, Darla's seduction was done with similar intent, and after Angel finally gets through to her and they make a connection unlike any other he's ever had in his souled existence, she is murdered in front of him by Drew and Lindsay. But even before that breaking point, Wolfram and Hart's meddling has been acting as an eroding force on Angel's will.
Still their world, Wesley. Structure for power, not truth. Works because there's no guilt. There's no torment. No consequences.
And when Holland talks to Angel during his literal and metaphorical descent, it certainly sounds like Holland is describing a cold and indifferent universe.
We have no intention of doing anything so prosaic as winning.
See, for us, there is no fight. Which is why winning doesn't enter into it.
We go on, no matter what. Our firm has always been here, in one form or another.
Camus' 3 responses to absurdity have had appearances as well. Angel has made more than one leap of faith this season, from his leap into the pool and participation in the trial, to his firing of the team and descent into hell with Holland. Actions made from a belief without evidence that the path he's on has an ending, that Wolfram and Hart can be beat. But his faith is not rewarded, and when Holland points out the meaninglessness of both winning and losing, Angel asks the important question.
Then why?
I'm sorry? Why what?
Why fight?
That's really the question you should be asking yourself, isn't it?
This leads to Angel's descent into nihilism and Camus' second response to absurdity, his attempted suicide with Darla.
It doesn't matter. None of it matters.
And finally, after that attempt fails, he has what Lorne describes as...
It's called a moment of clarity, my lamb. And you've just had one.
Completing the relapse metaphor for this season, a moment of clarity is a commonly used phrase in addiction recovery for when an addict turns a corner.
I don't know how to get back.
Well, that's just the thing. You don't. You go on to the new place, whatever that is.
Throughout the episode, it's clear that Angel is experiencing an attitude shift, but it isn't until the courtyard that he fully enunciates his epiphany, in a scene that changed my life. A scene that is one of the reasons why this video series actually exists. After Kate says that she's not sure her life means anything without being a cop, Angel responds,
It doesn't.
Doesn't what?
Mean anything. The greater scheme and the big picture. Nothing we do matters.
This is a restatement of the same thing he said to Darla in Reprise, but notice the difference.
It doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Rather than it being a source of anguish, he is now, as Camus would say, embracing the absurd. Where the night before the meaningless universe was a cause for despair, Angel now talks to Kate about it from a place of peaceful acceptance. Almost, well, as Kate says,
You seem kind of chipper about that.
Well, I guess I kind of worked it out. If there's no great glorious end to all this, if nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do.
It's a statement I struggled to wrap my mind around the first time. It sounded profound, but with a Zen Cohen paradoxical cuteness that was almost too neat. A statement seemingly in opposition to itself, but there's a vital bit remaining.
Because that's all there is. What we do now, today.
Time is always a vital perspective for Angel. Amends was about Angel not knowing how to atone for his past, and this season, in some ways, was about Angel racing toward the fulfillment of his prophecy. But our lives are lived through a finite number of present moments, the only one of which that is actually real and alive is the one occurring right now. This is all there really is. The rest is a biased and incomplete story of what was, or a dream of what may be, and meaning is a fire only kindled in that present moment. Where Buffy and Angel frame this idea in terms of the fight, and 2 episodes from now, Lindsay will refer to it as the game.
Key to Wolfram and Hart. Don't let them make you play their game.
Unsurprisingly, I tend to think of these things in terms of story. The story I am writing in this present moment. Story is the meaning. Whether or not we are all storytellers born into a meaningless universe, that is still who we are. Embracing absurdity, as Angel is doing, doesn't mean that I suddenly stop caring for the people I love, become someone else, or erase the chapters that came before. But it does mean that in every way I am capable, I am choosing not to be imprisoned by them.
You know, you don't have to be a cop.
I'm okay.
And that means living an examined life. Questioning, is the story I'm writing my own? Is it the one I was told to write when I was younger? Is it the one I'm writing because my fear, born of painful plot twists from the old chapters, is trying to keep me safe from potential pain in future chapters? Or is it the page I'm writing down today, my own authentic choice? And we can see Angel fully engaged in that process of self-examination.
I fought for so long for redemption, for a reward. finally just to beat the other guy, but I never got it.
Now you do?
Not all of it.
Since healthy is a journey, not a destination, it's a process forever incomplete. The letting go of story he didn't write or wrote in anger and pain so that he can make an authentic choice in the present moment. And in this episode alone, Angel shows that he still has things to let go of.
You saved me. Sorry I couldn't do the same for you.
Go with me.
Part of the fuel for Angel's downfall this season has been the belief that he didn't save Darla.
Darla had a shot at redemption, but they took it from her.
But let's look at that more closely. After Darla's soul had taken hold and her illness had come back, she first solicits Angel, then anyone she can, in order to try and prolong her existence. Not completely unlike Ford in the Buffy episode Lie to Me, who tried to make a trade of his friends' lives in exchange for vampiric immortality.
I don't have a choice.
They are both acting as what Sartre might have called an object in the world at the mercy of its circumstances, stuck in a prison of meaninglessness. Angel's willingness to give everything for her, including his own life, is what finally makes her realize that, as Buffy would say,
You have a choice. You don't have a good choice, but you have a choice.
And in the end, after Angel offered Darla what she wanted,
Maybe, because, I have a soul. If I did bite you.
No.
she refused. She made an authentic, selfless choice and exercised the use of her soul. Angel did save Darla, and she died in a state of redemption. The fact that the ending was 10 minutes from then instead of 10 days or 2 months doesn't change the fact that he did save her. And I can't help but keep returning to the same phrase, but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. Angel's character makes a wonderful case study for seemingly contradictory states. Demon versus human. Champion versus villain. And part of his demonness is his immortality, and one of the things that imbues life with meaning is that it ends. With Angel, there is always a constant battle against the corrosive power that passing time has on him. It is such a wonderful episode, and one of the things I love about the end of the episode is Angel's determination to earn and work for the trust of Team Investigations.
I want to work for you.
Very rarely do single aha moments alone manage to completely redirect the course of our lives. Angel's necessary refresher course on why he fights being a perfect example. In sobriety terms, the moment of clarity is just coming to terms with the way things are. Actual sobriety is something re-chosen and fought for in every moment, every day. And, as with Buffy and Angel never saving everyone, the worth of some battles isn't measured by how many times we might fail.